I kind of have very specific small memories of things that usually they're pretty mundane, but for some reason they've stuck in there anyway, and so they've kind of worn themselves into a personal mythology. And I don't quite know how to articulate that, but whatever it is, T.S. Eliot's kind of got my back, I feel, in that regard.
T.S. Eliot sort of knows you in that sense?
Yeah, like, I feel that maybe he felt something similar, because that's the way his writing feels. And it's something that I've tried to emulate a little. It's difficult to pin Eliot down. In terms of these very small, very peculiar memories, not necessarily important memories, but memories that have burrowed their way into my brain anyway, and they've stuck in there. And it's hard to articulate exactly why. I mean, it could just be something very simple like a particular Sunday night several years ago, and the way that the sun was shining on the windowsill from the window outside, and maybe some voices in the street, or a particular song that was on the radio. It might have been a book that I was reading, or just a very specific time when I was sitting talking to someone. There's all of these little moments, and I think I feel that Eliot might have felt something similar. Prelude 1. The winter evening settles down with smells of steaks and passageways. 6 o'clock. The burnt-out ends of smoky days. And now a gusty shower wraps the grimy scraps of withered leaves about your feet, and newspapers from vacant lots. The showers beat on broken blinds and chimney pots, and at the corner of the street a lonely cab horse steams and stamps. And then the lighting of the lamps. "12 o'clock. Along the reaches of the street, held in a lunar synthesis, whispering lunar incantations. Dissolve the flaws of memory and all its clear relations, its divisions and precisions. Every street lamp that I pass beats like a fatalistic drum. And through the spaces of the dark, midnight shakes the memory as a madman shakes a dead geranium. 1:30, the street lamp sputtered, the street lamp muttered. The street lamp said, regard that woman who hesitates towards you in the light of the door, which opens on her like a grin. You see the border of her dress is torn and stained with sand, and you see the corner of her eye twists like a crooked pin. The memory throws up high and dry a crowd of twisted things, a twisted branch upon the beach, eaten smooth and polished, as if the world gave up the secret of its skeleton. Stiff and white. A broken spring in a factory yard, rust that clings to the form that the string has left, hard and curled and ready to snap. 2:30, the street lamp said, remark the cat which flattens itself in the gutter, slips out its tongue, and devours a morsel of rancid butter. So the hand of the child, automatic, slipped out and pocketed a toy that was running along the quay. I could see nothing behind that child's eye. I have seen eyes in the street trying to peer through lighted shutters. And a crab, one afternoon in a pool, an old crab with barnacles on its back, gripping the end of a stick, which I held for him. 3:30, the lamp sputtered, the lamp muttered in the dark. The lamp hummed, regard the moon, la lune negare acune racune. She winks a feeble eye, she smiles into corners, she smooths the hair of the grass. The moon has lost her memory. A washed-out smallpox cracks her face. Her hand twists a paper rose that smells of dust and eau de cologne. She is alone, with all the old nocturnal smells that cross and cross across her brain. The reminiscence comes of sunless, dry geraniums, and dust in crevices, smells of chestnuts in the streets, and female smells in shuttered rooms, and cigarettes in corridors, and cocktail smells in bars. The lamp said, 4 o'clock. Here is the number on the door. Memory. You have the key. The little lamp spreads a ring on the stair. Mount. The bed is open. The toothbrush hangs on the wall. Put your shoes at the door. Sleep. Prepare for life. The last twist of the knife. If you want to go through the wasteland with a fine tooth comb and a magnifying glass, you could probably write a doctorate on that. I'm sure people have. For me, I find it a little too broad, and that's why I really enjoy particularly Prufrock. The story of a man who's feeling a sense of age, who's feeling maybe a sense of irrelevance, and I think that we've all felt that at one time. Even if we're not talking about old age, not specifically like very old age as the man in the poem, but even in terms of feeling like sliding out of relevance or sliding into another phase of life that maybe you're not quite ready for yet, or one that you don't quite understand. And that's something that I can identify with as well, and I think we can all identify with that. Prelude 2. The morning comes to consciousness of faint, stale smells of beer from the sawdust trampled street, with all its muddy feet that press to early coffee stands. With the other masquerades that time resumes, one thinks of all the hands that are raising dingy shades in 1,000 furnished rooms. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights and one-night cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent, to lead you to an overwhelming question. Do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes. The yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes. Licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pool that stands and drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys. Slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you, and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions, and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of a toast and tea. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. And indeed, there will be time to wonder, do I dare? And do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. They will say, how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin. My necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse. For I have known them all already, known them all, have known the evenings, mornings, afternoons. I have measured out my life in coffee spoons. I know the voices dying with a dying fall beneath the music from a farther room. So how should I presume? And I have known the eyes already, known them all, the eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase, and when I am formulated, sprawling upon a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all the butt ends of my days and ways, and how should I presume? And I have known the arms already, known them all, arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight, covered with a slight brown hair. Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Arms that lie along a table or wrap around in a shawl? And should I then presume? And how should I begin? Shall I say I have gone at dusk through narrow streets and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows? I should have been a pair of ragged claws, scuttling across the floors of silent seas, and the afternoon, the evening sleeps so peacefully, smoothed by long fingers, asleep, tired, or it malingers, stretched on the floor, here beside you and beside me. Should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis? But though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed, though I have seen my head, grown slightly bald, brought in upon a platter, I am no prophet. And here is no great matter. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker. And in short, I was afraid. And would it have been worth it, after all? After the cups, the marmalade, the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me, would it have been worth while to have bitten off the matter with a smile? To have squeezed the universe into a half, to roll it towards some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come from the dead, come back to tell you all. I shall tell you all. If one, settling a pillow by her head, should say, that is not what I meant at all. That is not it at all. And would it have been worth it, after all? Would it have been worthwhile, after the sunsets and the dooryards and the sprinkled streets, after the novels, after the teacups, after the skirts that trail along the floor? And this, and so much more, it is impossible to just say what I mean. But as if a magic lantern threw the nerves and patterns on a screen, would it have been worthwhile if one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl and turning to the window, should say, that is not it at all. That is not what I meant at all. No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. Am an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress or start a scene or two. Advise the prince, no doubt, an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious, and meticulous, full of high sentence but a bit obtuse. At times, indeed, almost ridiculous, almost at times the fool. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear my trousers rolled. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back when the sea blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by sea-girls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us, and we drown. Poetry it feels almost like a personal archaeology. So sometimes prophecy, sometimes it goes forward, sometimes it goes backward. I feel with me a lot of it is backward. There are things that are kind of buried away in there, hiding away, and every now and then something will trigger, and I kind of get this little flash of memory, and sometimes I try and pin it down to the paper, and sometimes I get the feeling that Eliot was feeling something similar. So that's the best way that I can explain my relationship with Eliot. There was I get the impression that he was searching for something. Prelude 3. You tossed a blanket from the bed. You lay upon your back and waited. You dozed and watched the night, revealing the thousand sordid images of which your soul was constituted. They flickered against the ceiling, and when all the world came back and the light crept up between the shutters and you heard the sparrows in the gutters, you had such a vision of the street, as the street hardly understands. Sitting along the bed's edge where you curled the papers from your hair, or clasped the yellow soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands. Prelude 4. His soul stretched tight across the skies that fade behind the city block, or trampled by insistent feet at 4 and 5 and 6 o'clock, and short, square fingers stuffing pipes and evening newspapers, and eyes assured of certain certainties. The conscience of a blackened street, impatient to assume the world. I am moved by fancies that are curled around these images and cling. The notion of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. Wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women, gathering fuel in vacant lots. Among the smoke and fog of a December afternoon, you have the scene arrange itself, as it will seem to do, with "I have saved this afternoon for you." And 4 wax candles in the darkened room, 4 rings of light upon the ceiling overhead. An atmosphere of Juliet's tomb, prepared for all the things to be said or left unsaid. We have been, let us say, to hear the latest Pole transmit the preludes through his hair and through his fingertips. So intimate this Chopin that I think his soul should be resurrected only among friends, some 2 or 3 who will not touch the bloom that is rubbed and questioned in the concert room. And so the conversation slips among velleities and carefully caught regrets through attuned tones of violins mingled with remote cornets, and begins. You do not know how much they mean to me, my friends, And how rare and strange it is to find in a life composed so much of odds and ends. For indeed I do not love it. You knew? You are not blind. How keen you are to find a friend who has these qualities, who has and gives those qualities upon which friendship lives. How much it means that I say to you, without these friends, life. Among the windings of the violins and the ariettes of cracked cornets, inside my brain a dull tom-tom begins, absurdly hammering a prelude of its own, capricious monotone. This is at least one definite false note. Let us take the air. In a tobacco trance, we admire the monuments, discuss the late events, correct our watches by the public clocks, then sit for half an hour and drink our bocks. Now that the lilacs are in bloom, she has a bowl of lilacs in her room, and twists one in her fingers while she talks. Ah, my friend, you do not know what life is, you who hold it in your hands, slowly twisting the lilac stalks. You let it flow from you. You let it flow, and youth is cruel, and has no remorse, and smiles at situations which it cannot see. I smile, of course, and go on drinking tea. Yet with these April sunsets that somehow recall my buried life, and Paris in the spring, I feel immeasurably at peace, and find the world to be wonderful and youthful after all. The voice returns, like an insistent out of tune of a broken violin on the August afternoon. I am always sure that you understand my feelings, always sure that you feel, sure that across the gulf you reach your hand. You are invulnerable. You have no Achilles heel. You will go on, and when you have prevailed, you can say, at this point, many a one has failed. But what have I, my friend, to give you? What can you receive from me? Only the friendship and the sympathy of one about to reach her journey's end. I shall sit here, serving tea to friends. I take my hat. How can I make a cowardly amends for what she has said to me? You will see me any morning in the park, reading the comics and the sporting page. Particularly I remark an English countess goes upon the stage. A Greek was murdered at a Polish dance. Another bank defaulter has confessed. I keep my countenance. I remain self-possessed, except when a street piano, mechanical and tired, reiterates some worn-out common song, with the smell of hyacinths across the garden, recalling things that other people have desired. Are these ideas right or wrong? The October night comes down, returning as before, except for a slight sensation of being ill at ease. I mount the stairs and turn the handle at the door, and I feel as if I had mounted on my hands and knees. And so you were going abroad, and when do you return? But that's a useless question. You hardly know when you are coming back. You will find so much to learn. My smile falls heavily among the bric-a-brac. Perhaps you can write to me. My self-possession flares up for a second. This is as I had reckoned. I have been wondering frequently of late, but our beginnings never know our ends, why we have not developed into friends. I feel like one who smiles and turning shall remark suddenly his expression in a glass. My self-possession gutters, we are really in the dark. For everybody said so, all our friends, they were all so sure our feelings would relate so closely. I myself can hardly understand. We must leave it now to fate. You will write, at any rate. Perhaps it is not too late. I shall sit here, serving tea to friends. And I must borrow every changing shape to find expression, dance, dance like a dancing bear, cry like a parrot, chatter like an ape, let us take the air in that tobacco trance. Well, and what if she should die some afternoon? Afternoon grey and smoky, evening yellow and rose. Should die and leave me sitting pen in hand, with the smoke coming down above the housetops, doubtful for a while, not knowing what to feel, or if I understand, or whether wise or foolish, tardy or too soon. Would she not have the advantage, after all? This music is successful with a dying fall. Now that we talk of dying, and should I have the right to smile?